Leslie, it's awesome to have you with me. And I was just saying thank you to you for introducing me to somebody else that you met that also has a podcast. And I mean, I share that because I think the connections that we have with a lot of other people are amazing. And so I appreciate that. Uh, I know you have a great journey of your life, you know, and I would appreciate if you could just share with everybody first who you are, what you're passionate about, what you're doing, and then we just go back from there.
Awesome. I'd be happy to do that, John. Thanks so much for having me today. So I'm Leslie Fiorenzo. I'm a business presentation coach. After 30 plus years in corporate, specifically in the field of employee assistance and HR. So I spent a lot of time helping educate HR folks about mental health and helping them encourage their employees to use their employee assistance program to seek out whenever there's a life issue that's impacting them. So having recently, quote unquote, retired from that job, I am now focused on helping people be better speakers. I think communication, being able to speak and communicate in an impactful way is important for everyone. My specific audience are coaches who are fearful of public speaking. And so my goal is to work with coaches wanting to improve their skills.
Well, let's just start with, you were in HR, right? So you were helping people with there. So how did you transition from that to helping people speak?
Well, it's been something I've always enjoyed doing. It's kind of been a passion of mine. And I've seen so many people that are reluctant, and it comes across as fear. And I've always felt a little sad in my heart for those folks, and felt like, as I think about what I want to do for literally the rest of my life, John, I don't have any plans to retire in a way that most people do, like to lay on the beach or golf or quilt or garden. None of those things appeal to me. What appeals to me is helping people get their message out in an impactful way. So that's what I'm going to spend my time doing.
Yeah, we can all lay on the beach now, right? And it's not forever, you know?
I mean, I get bored. I like the beach, don't get me wrong, and I like relaxing, but I also need something productive to do.
Now, have you spoken prior to all this before helping others?
Yes. So early mid-20s so here's my story on my website in a short. Joined a women's organization, and they had a speaking contest. And I thought, oh, I'll enter that. I'll win the $100 prize. Yeah, not so much. So having a really strong mentor in that group who was super helpful and encouraged me in several ways. One of the things I did was I joined Toastmasters. The next thing I did was got acquainted with the Michigan chapter of the National Speakers Association, and they changed the name of the program, but back then it was called Pro Track. It was professional track, helping new speakers get their speaking business put together, and not only the business piece of it, but the stage piece of it, the speaking skills, and helping you craft a presentation, be a better speaker. And at that time, it was all in person. This kind of platform was nothing that was even thought of. And it was, like on the Jetsons, right? That's when I was a kid, that was a thing. So anyway, having said all that, I knew I wanted to do something as I transitioned from a full-time job to what was I going to do after that, and did some exploration, got acquainted with an organization that helped me identify a niche and the target and the things that I needed to do to build my business. So here I am.
Now, do you just said you just help coaches, or I mean, is there a specific coach group that you're targeting?
What I've found is many times it's newer coaches, that people who have an established practice of 5 to 10 years, have some really good revenue coming in. They've got it dialed in. But when someone is a newly minted coach, or they've tried to figure this out, they've gotten their certification, Maybe it's a business coach certification, a life coach certification, a health coach certification. And those certification programs are important, and it helps them be a great coach. What it doesn't always do is help them have the confidence to share their message in an impactful way. So that's what I like to do, is help them get their story out there. Because I don't know if you think this way, John, but you can't be the best kept secret in town and expect people to find you somehow magically. It's not going to work.
No, you can't. That's why we're having this, conversation right now, so people can get to know you and me and, whoever else we discuss right now. But so you were speaking, you did the test or the competition you did, and then, I mean, where did you go from there? Where did you keep going with your journey?
So in my full-time roles, I did a lot of presentation and speaking, and so just became passionate about not only improving my skills, but recognize that a lot of folks need, well, it's the number one fear, right? Jerry Seinfeld has a shtick about, if you're asked to do the eulogy at the funeral, you really rather be in the casket than standing up in front of people. I think that's I know it's true, but it's also kind of sad, because we can make such a world of difference if we can share our message, no matter what your business is, or as a leader in an organization, even running a team meeting. I've seen so many people that just don't do a good job, mostly because they're terrified. And I'm not real sure what they're terrified of, because in this day and age, we're pretty safe. Most of us, if we live in a first world country, don't have to worry about it too much. But that's just reality.
Yeah. So it's what they think people are thinking about them. Yeah.
That I'm going to be judged, and maybe judged harshly or unfairly. And unfortunately that happens. But by and large, especially if you are a business owner and you have a message to share, or even a leader in an organization, people want to hear from you. And so they sign up to take your course, come to your presentation, attend your webinar, whatever it is, because they want that information.
Yeah. And so would you say lack of confidence would be one of them as well?
Lack of confidence. It's been my experience, John, in working with clients. There's some kind of story that the person is telling themselves based on something in the past, a true event that happened, but now they've escalated it in their head to, I can't do this. So one of my clients was a 5th grade class book report and got laughed at. Now, in working together, the goal was to give a presentation at a conference, which I'm happy to report they successfully did. But at first, couldn't even stand before a group for 30 to 45 seconds and tell their name, their business name, and a little bit about their business without knees knocking, voice quivering, microphone shaking in their hand.
Mm. So how would you suggest somebody overcoming that? I mean, just like a short little tweak or something you might have.
Well, first of all, get in touch with what's the fault story that I work with my clients on. Their inner critic, changing their inner critic to inner champion. Our inner critic's job is to keep us safe, just doesn't know how to do its job well, so we have to retrain it. So that's number one. Number two, like Nike says, just do it. Find venues. Podcast interviews are a great way to get comfortable, or even create your own private group on Facebook where you can go in that group live every morning. No one has to see it. Or you can simply record on your phone and delete the recording. But it's the habit of doing it. And the more you do something and searching for improvement, asking for feedback and listening to feedback, but the more you do something, the better you're going to get. No one, very, very few people are good right out of the gate. Even a naturally gifted athlete has to put in the reps. So we have to put in the reps.
Yeah. Would talking in front of a mirror be something you suggest?
That's another thing too. Talking in front of the mirror, which most people are reluctant to do it. It's kind of like, it's like getting on camera, right? Very few of us want to stay and look at ourselves all day long. It's taken a long time. Now we're comfortable on Zoom, but I'm also amazed at how many people are still reluctant to turn on that camera in group meetings, especially because if I'm off camera, I can kind of hide. I don't have to be visible. A friend of mine sells insurance, and she was asked to do a presentation. No one in that group came on camera. She said, it was the weirdest experience I've ever had. I couldn't tell if I was making a good impression, a bad. There was no interaction. So that's the sad fact of our life today.
Yeah, I've been on a few of them like that, or there's a few that are just blacked out. And, I know sometimes the host is trying to, hey, show your face, because then you do have the interaction, even if it's just, through a screen here, right? You're able to feel some kind of connection, But yeah, I mean, these are great small tips. So it took me a while to do what I'm doing now, podcasting. And I'll be honest with you, when I was in a big room at an event, somebody was on stage and you go, how many here have a podcast? And you got hands going up, and how many here don't have one? And you had more hands go up, and it was basically because of fear. So it's the same thing, right? There's fear somewhere, everywhere. And so I know it's a belief that we all pick up somewhere along in life. So where would you say that somebody might get this besides, it's got to be something back in their past, right? I mean, is there a get?
It could be a well-intended adult told you something that, you're not good at that, or you should be quiet. There is a generation of folks that not to be seen or heard, right? Kids got to be quiet and well-behaved and all that kind of thing. So that's from some well-meaning person in our past often. There's two fears that we as humans are born with: a fear of loud noises and fear of falling. Everything else is learned. And it's usually from someone close to us, a parent, a teacher, somebody who had influence over us in the early years, or something happened and we associate this getting in front of the group is a bad thing. I don't want to do it. It's hard for me. I'm scared. I'm whatever. So we tell ourselves a story about why we can't.
So how do you besides practicing stuff, how do you get that out of there then?
Well, just let's rework the story. Let's reframe it as learning opportunities and know that generally speaking, it's false. It's something our subconscious or our inner critic, whatever you want to call that, it's made up or exacerbated that story to the point where it's inhibiting us. And that's the question. Is it inhibiting you? Now, some people can say, you know what, I could live my whole life without ever getting in front of the group. And maybe they can. They're not a business owner. They're not a business leader. They don't need to do that. And that's okay. My mom, for example, was terrified. I know she was, because she was curious about why I wanted to perform on stage and those kinds of things when I was in school. But she didn't have a role where she had to get in front of people. So it was okay for her to stay in that place. But many are not, and many want to overcome it just simply for the challenge.
So a lot of them want to overcome it. That's what you said. I would think different, but because people are more like, hey, I'm scared to do this. But it is that discomfort I think you have to go through in order to see something better on the other side. You just don't know what it is because you're comfortable where you are.
I think Jack Canfield says everything we want is on the other side of fear.
Well, it could be speaking then, right? Yeah. Awesome. So, so how does somebody I don't know, do they come up to you and they just say, hey, this is what I want to do. I have a presentation, and you kind of just back filter it?
Well, I do have a specific program that I take people through. And so if somebody's interested, we can chat about that. But often it is the conversation about, or in a couple cases, it's been a referral. So someone confided in a friend or colleague that they were struggling with this, or they had a presentation coming up, or they were slotted to do this or asked to do this and they refused a few times, and they know it's time, I can't say no anymore. So then we've gotten connected in that way.
Yeah. And would you help them, like assist them getting on stages and stuff?
Well, I am not a person that books people on stages, but we'll talk about how to do that, where to do that. And I would say start with the groups that, for no pay, many local civic organizations want a speaker for their group. So Kiwanis, for example, Rotary, for example. If you're a chamber member, sometimes you can work with your chamber to do a presentation. They want maybe something for a lunch or a lunch and learn. I know our local chiropractor, one of their marketing tactics is to go into lunch, do a lunch and learn for local businesses. So that chiropractors had to learn to be a good public speaker. Because again, you're not going to get rebooked if word gets out that you're boring.
It's true. Besides maybe like making a career move and speaking for that reason, I know that, I have people coming on sharing their journeys in life. I mean, so obviously these people are maybe not the best speakers, but they actually are improving themselves as they keep talking on podcasts or stages, right? Would you say that maybe, or you would agree, that people have to go through some life-changing experience in their life to maybe take that leap and say, you know what else do I have to lose?
Oftentimes, I've kind of I don't know if I want to use the term do or die, but there's some goal that they're committed to and they want to work towards that goal. And they know that improving their speaking skills will help them get there.
So
podcast appearances or other kinds of things.
Right. And just in my experience, I haven't spoken on a stage yet before. I have been asked to, so I'm going to take that leap. And just because I feel like doing this so many times, I'll give it a shot. Right. So why not? And I feel like this, or just talking on a workshop or a virtual Zoom for whatever, a webinar or whatever it is some kind of learning lesson and some kind of experience. You mentioned getting that feedback and stuff, and people don't want to hear that feedback, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's about being better. I think it's about improvement. Now, we're not the right fit for everyone. So you've got to find your quote unquote tribe or the people that resonate with you. And also maybe take feedback with a grain of salt. I might say something to someone that they're like, that's not me. That's not going to work. That's okay. So when I work with my clients, we have an opportunity to practice and get comfortable. So I said this this is one piece of advice I give most people. No matter if you're seated or standing, keep your feet flat on the floor. And when you move with purpose. And I had a client get some pushback on that with me. She said, I've got to move. I said, well, if you pace back and forth or to front or back, either side, whatever, pacing often gives the impression that you are nervous. And so if I take some steps, I want to take steps with purpose and lean in or step into the audience when I'm making a point. And then I want to step back or away often as I tell another or transition to another story or another point. So there's just some tips or tricks. And again, there's as many ideas as there are professional speakers. And you can watch and see people, especially who give TED Talks. So if you look at Mel Robbins' TED Talks, for example, she moves around the stage. Now, if you look at Mitch Levy, he stands still and does not move very much, but he moves his body and he's accentuating. So To me, that is much more powerful than somebody who's running back and forth across the stage. And I like Mel Robbins. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to criticize her. I'm a big fan, but just a difference.
Yeah. And there's hand gestures and stuff too that would help with all this as well, right? And changing your voice from high and low.
It's inflection, it's tone, it's also speed. So when I want to tell something or keep somebody's interest, changing your voice. I know you've heard people who are boring. Part of the reason they're boring is because they just talk in a monotone at one pace. Oh man, nobody wants to listen to that for very long.
Yeah, they don't.
We've got to have some changes.
Yeah, I've seen stuff on this, and that, you know, so that's why I'm kind of like asking. And there's also pausing, and like I picked up on, you know, having a pause, and that allows the audience to kind of like think, I guess, of what's coming.
One of the things that, especially if we're new to speaking, we fill in the gaps with ums and ahs. I have to give Toastmasters credit for curing me of that. I have to give my dad credit for curing me of an expression when I was a teen. I would often fill in with, you know, and he would say, no, I don't know. I finally got so tired of that response. Okay, I've got to change my language. So learning an opportunity to learn can come from any place. But the beauty of Toastmasters, in my opinion, is it is the weekly challenge of standing up and presenting either off the cuff or in a practiced speech.
So would you recommend your clients to do something like that at home, or even go to Toastmasters?
Yes, I always recommend if people want to improve their public speaking skills, or there's also networking groups where you give a presentation about your business every week. That's, I've seen people over time improve in that venue too. It's not, the purpose isn't public speaking, but again, it's repetition. And if I come prepared to that meeting to share about what my business is about and who I'm looking to meet, I'm going to be improving that skill. But I think Toastmasters is a wonderful organization for helping people improve their public speaking abilities.
Yeah, I unfortunately haven't gone to one just because of, you know, with what I have to do during the day. But I've heard very good things about it from people that go, and, you know, and I never heard of that thing. So it's definitely, and they're everywhere, you know, so I would definitely check them out. If somebody's listening to this, you know, see what's out there. How does somebody connect with you, Leslie?
The best place to connect with me is on my website. So lesliefiorenzo.com. And there's a page there, can book a call if they're so inclined. I also have a free resource, so they can check me out there, connect with me on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. I have some free resources on my YouTube channel.
What are their free resources?
So I post every week about a topic. This week's was getting prepared and expecting obstacle. Actually, I recorded it today. It'll be posted next Tuesday. Sorry, I got to think about where I'm at in my schedule. Right. I try to share 4 to 5 minutes worth of valuable content about helping people improve their public speaking skills on my channel. So,
oh, great.
Everybody's interested in that.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you. So I'll ask you one question that I ask everybody. You know, what are 3 key things you've learned and used along your journey?
How important it is to listen from a standpoint of curiosity. As humans, we are judging mechanisms, and just, you don't know someone's story. And even if they're a friend, you don't know for sure their story. So being willing to just be curious and listen with the intent to learn more. I think smiling is important. I think when we smile at people, it makes a difference. sometimes we're walking, you see a lot of people that look angry. They're just because they're not, but just because they aren't smiling. So I think smiling is important. And let me see, 3, be kind. Maybe that's the third. Just be kind, because again, everyone has a story you know nothing about. And if we can look at people and say, you know what, chances are they're doing the best they know how to do at this given moment with the resources they have, and just give them some grace.
Yeah. And I just want to share a little bit where, I try to make it a point to, when I'm out walking around, say hi to 5 people I have no idea. Right. And it's like a game. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes you don't get any responses. So you're like, but yeah, but you never know. You might get that one person that does show that smile then, because they needed it. They needed somebody to say hi or whatever. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes. I haven't come across that person where they start discussing everything going on, but I'm sure that there's going to be a moment, something like that. But yeah, I think what you just listed there is great. Definitely smiling and being kind to others are really good. Yeah. Leslie, I am so grateful that you came on, and I'm really impressed with what you had to share with speaking. We dove into some good examples. Right. And yeah. And, I like to hopefully connect with you sometime later down the road and see where you are in another, 6 months or a year, and see how your clients are doing and go from there. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. It was my pleasure.
Sure. Thank you.